welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups, technology and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Shrikant coming to you from India's startup capital, Bengaluru. We kick it off then with a special panel that we have on the show this evening. I caught up with the Chairman India for Accenture, Rekha Menon, as well as the CEO of AP Innovation Society, Valli Kumari, as well as the SigTuple co-founder and CEO Rohit Pandey, to really find out about the impact of artificial intelligence or AI in terms of socio-economic outcomes, how this can have a game-changing effect in India when it comes to areas such as agriculture, healthcare, the kind of policy push that's needed. Remember, the Niti Aayog recently put out a discussion paper on the framework for AI in India. So clearly it's an area that the government is also looking at closely. I caught up with them on the sidelines of the CI Innovation Summit today in Bengaluru. Let's listen in to what this panel had to say about the impact of AI on the government, on industries, as well as how it's going to have an impact as far as solving problems in areas such as agriculture and healthcare are concerned.
We authored a study which looked at the Indian economy and just broadly came to the conclusion, just using AI, we could unlock the potential in the economy for up to $1 trillion in a couple of years, and I forget the number of years that we said it would happen. So the potential is huge, and it can happen in very many different areas beyond the very obvious places that it's already making an impact on. So we picked up different sectors and looked at them. So one example is agriculture, for example, right? We have small land holdings, we have farmers who don't have access to any technology, and with AI, and it's already being proven in some of the cases, you could actually connect a lot of farmers up, give them smart farming technology, connect them to the market, make them more productive, and increase their income dramatically. So that's just one element of the study. So there are many elements of it, and we looked at different sectors where this could be done: education, healthcare, agriculture, mobility. And all of those now are also what Niti Aayog is sort of putting together in its framework for AI.
Ma'am, you know, AP has sort of topped the ease of doing business rankings when it comes to business reforms. You have a chief minister who's known to be very tech savvy. You know, even before the bifurcation, Microsoft came to Hyderabad first. It's one of their biggest development centers. So, you know, when you look at the next wave of technology, AI, what is the government's view? What can a state government potentially do to leverage AI in various areas? I mean, agriculture would be a huge game changer, but what other use cases do you see, and you know, how will you go about it?
Yes, with the visionary chief minister, such a leader who is known for his IT innovations over the past 2 to 3 decades. We started innovating, or we started using artificial intelligence since about 3 years ago. We started building the base for using artificial intelligence since 3 years. One is building the task force, wherein we brought in companies and consortiums like NASSCOM to train our teachers in the engineering colleges, and they in turn teach the local institution
in terms of
teachers,
preparing students for
so on one hand it is workforce building, on the other hand we brought in all the departments automated. Right. So now that we have most of the data available for AI, the heart is on one side it is data, the other side is the knowledge base, the expertise to infer something. So yes, we have the skill getting developed, we have the data getting collected, and now we also have the expertise, like we have a lot of startups coming out with products. So it's all like something is happening already, like to state one of the use cases, like school education department.
Right.
So we have started collecting data since 3 years about the school records, the student assessment records. And then now the school education department is able to predict the dropout rate, which kid is likely to drop out from the studies.
So that they can sort of apply interventions.
And then find out what is the reason.
Right.
Is maths becoming difficult for him? Is English the difficulty or something else? Right. Now interventions have already started. So we identified where remedial classes have to be taken up.
Rohit, you know, big data, AI, it's been a huge buzzword for startups as well in the last year. I mean, Accenture has funded you. They funded, I think, Niram AI in Chennai, which works in the area of diagnosis of breast cancer. So are we seeing the outcomes, you know, in the healthcare space already? Are there more startups coming? You even have a Math Street Den, which is, you know, leveraging AI in the online fashion space. So, you know, take us through the developments as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned. You know, is this just a bubble? Is it one of those irrational euphoric phases that you see, or are we seeing, you know, visible impact on the ground?
No, I would say this is the most exciting time for startup ecosystem in India. Not because using AI is cool, but the impact which AI can bring in different sectors which are so crucial for a country like us, be it agriculture, be it healthcare, be it education, or be it even the infrastructure. Coming to healthcare, anyways, healthcare delivery is one of the biggest problem in India. If you see, we have an abysmal doctor to patient ratio, the affordability is not there, and then accessibility, there is a problem with accessibility too. So what at least, we have been seeing that since the last 2 to 3 years, the number of startups which are coming in healthcare to solve different kind of problems, it has just tremendously increased. So we started our journey in 2015. At that point in time, there were very few startups trying to use AI. But if you see in the last 3 years, the number of startups which has come up, be it Niramai, who is trying to solve the breast cancer screening problem, or be it Predible Health, who are trying to solve problem in liver diseases, is just tremendous. Most of the focus, and if you see, they're trying to cover the entire pyramid. Some of them are like us, are trying to solve the grassroots level problem. Common screening test, high volume screening test, which everybody needs and which requires a medical expert to review the visual medical data. Some of them are trying to solve the bigger problem related to oncology, how to solve the problem related to cancer. Some of them are solving very interesting problem like how to reduce aging, right? So it's a very...
That sounds like a very Peter Thiel problem, like how to live forever.
Exactly. So if you see, startups are trying to solve different kind of problem, which is going to cover the entire pyramid. But what we have to understand is some of these initiatives or some of these startups will require a gestation period. It's not as easy to bring something for healthcare as it's compared to other industry, maybe fashion. You can bring something. The
gestation period would
exactly.
be
You can
longer.
Bring something as a minimum viable product, and you can market it for fashion industry. But that's not true in healthcare. You have to take the solution through clinical trial, regulatory approval before it can see the light of the day. But it started happening. So, for example, in our case, we started commercializing our solution from April onwards. So now, after working on it for 2.5 years, it has started seeing the light of the day. Similarly,
and you got funded recently.
we have been able to raise funds, so we got support as well. So it's exciting time, but at the same point in time, it will require a lot of nurturing by the ecosystem.
When you think AI, you immediately think about humanoids or robots, but bots are already having a big impact. So are you already seeing this adoption happen at the enterprise level?
Absolutely.
In terms of how this is disrupting existing industries?
So absolutely. So it's a myth, or well, let's say it's a nice thing to see that all people think about is those robots on the shop floor.
Right.
But AI is pervasive already in industry. In fact, we're calling it, this is the industry X.0 that's happening. This is the next wave that has happened already. And they are being used across all sectors that we see, all areas that we see in, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's consumer, retail, banks, everywhere. So it's pervasive. So that's one. I mean, it's pervasive. It's not that it's happening in places. Second, what it's doing is it's changing the whole nature of the organization itself, right? Because they're having to reinvent themselves. They are doing new things, and they're using AI in ways that they would have never thought before. So they're putting sensors out somewhere in the, since I said oil and gas, right out into the field, so that you don't have to send humans in dangerous conditions to look at what's happening on the pipes, and they can be sensors which can then read it and tell you and do sometimes self-healing itself, or whatever else, and gathering a lot of data, because you spoke about data, lots of data, and therefore you can run analytics and do much better consumer service in whichever field that you're in, right? We experience it every day, right? You experience it when you're buying something online, right, in a retail segment, but take that to the industrial area, that's happening there too. So we are used to seeing it in retail, or we're used to seeing it in banking, but that's getting translated into the industrial field also. So pervasive, moving in fast, and a lot more opportunity still.
Right. And you know, one question that people worry about, you know, every time AI comes up is, of course, about jobs. What's going to happen, you know, because people are now talking about a universal basic income for all, you know, if that's going to be needed because of AI. What do you make of it? Will there be other kinds of jobs, or, you know, are there certain predictable jobs that will go to bots and there will still be space for human beings? What do you make of it? And, you know, IT services has been a huge employer. It's the biggest private sector employer in India. So what do you make of the impact that this is going to have on the jobs front?
Okay, so let me start by an analogy. Let me start by saying all change is scary. So every time there's been a technology change, right? When the industrial, so go right back.
Right.
When
This is perhaps a time when you're seeing multiple changes happen at the same time.
Which is true, right? When industrial revolution happened, everybody said, oh my God, everybody's going to lose their jobs and machines will take over, right? Same thing is happening, but the change is happening fast, you're right. There's a combinatorial effect of changes that are going on. So yes, change is happening. There's no doubt about it. But from our perspective, it's a positive thing. So in our study, and at Accenture, we've done a study where we really looked at overall and said there's going to be a net addition of jobs, not a net takeaway, right? So however, the nature of jobs will change and are changing. So there's a net addition, point one. Point two, the nature of jobs will change and are changing, to the point you're making, that some of the rote learning, for some of the transaction level jobs are going away, because those can get automated. But what can take its place is different types of jobs which we didn't even know had.
Right.
Uber drivers didn't exist 2 years ago, right, or 3 years ago.
Right.
So who would have thought that there's a category of jobs that will come up?
You know, ma'am, when it comes to skilling, the onus has largely been on the industry so far. I mean, there used to be a time when, you know, IT companies would hire mechanical and civil engineers from campus and then train them for 6 months on various programs and, you know, then put them on a software job. But, you know, does the onus now have to shift to the government in terms of how they tackle this at the college level? I mean, you recently had, I think, C.P. Gurnani saying that over 90% of engineers in India are not fit, you know, to have jobs in the industry. That was a very strong statement. So what kind of changes are needed at the college level? What kind of push is needed from the government?
Well, I do not agree with the comment that the kids that who are getting educated in the engineering colleges are not employable. But because the same kids, if they go abroad to pursue a master's degree, they're doing very well. So the gap could be because the subjects that they are taught and the skill that the industry wants, there is a gap between the curriculum and the requirements of the industry. Definitely not because of the youngsters here. So yes, the government of Andhra Pradesh has come out with a corporation called Skill Development Corporation, which is looking at this gap. So, like as I told you, through NASSCOM, we identified artificial intelligence, data analytics, machine learning kind of jobs will be coming in, and there will be trillions of dollars of business in gaming, audio, AR, VR, and MR. So we started rolling out courses through Skill Development Corporation. We attached the engineering colleges. We opened skill centers in the campuses. We brought in companies like Siemens to establish fabrication and, you know, hardware setups. All the 3D printers, kinds of stuff was brought in.
I think Nandan Nilekani has said that, you know, we will be data rich before we become rich as an economy. And there's been a huge explosion of data usage in the last couple of years. Probably Geo has had a huge effect. Now they're talking about fiber Geo, which is, going to compound that. The cost of data has also come down. What kind of opportunity does this present for startups, considering the GDP per capita in India is still, below $2,000? What do you make of the opportunity?
See, there is a huge opportunity because when you talk about AI, the first thing which comes along with AI is data.
Right.
If you don't have data, there is no AI.
It's like the raw material
exactly.
for AI.
But the other myth which is there in the industry is when you say data, this means it's ready for AI. The answer is no. The way data has been stored, the way it has been structured, the way it has been annotated plays a big role in how AI can consume it. So just saying that we'll have a very huge infrastructure, we'll put in all the data is not going to work. There has to be a dedicated infrastructure to bring the required data on one common platform, and it has to be structured in such a way so that it can be consumed to bring different kind of AI-driven products. And that's where you can see in the Niti Aayog documentation as well, they have talked about annotating the data. If you don't annotate the data... So
this infrastructure push has to come from the government in terms of creating an infra...
Absolutely, because see, the amount of data which government has, I don't think anybody has that kind of data. So if they can bring this platform and they can enable annotated data to be brought in this platform, I think the speed at which AI can bring innovation in different sectors...
But they'll have to do it balancing privacy concerns.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's the reason if you see the document which they have revealed, it not only talks about the data, it talks about the privacy aspect as well.
Welcome back to ET Now Startup Central after the break. Now you heard, a panel of speakers on AI, but we have one more special voice from the world of technology. I'm talking about Infosys co-founder Kris Gopalakrishnan, who in recent years has become a very active investor in the startup space. In fact, we had him on the show a few weeks back on Accelor Ventures, and through Accelor, he has invested in AI startups such as SigTuple, such as Niram AI in Chennai, which works in the area of screening breast cancer, leveraging technology. We caught up with Kris to really understand what the government can do in terms of leveraging AI to solve various problems. We also asked him about the impact this is going to have on jobs and the IT industry going forward. Let's listen in.
Our endeavor through the Innovation Summit is to create a platform for innovation in the state and in the country. Initial days, we had to actually introduce concepts around innovation. Then we focused on how innovation can drive growth. Then we talked about how innovation has to spread across all industry sectors. And in this summit, our focus is on how India can lead with innovation. So leadership of India in innovation. Every year we also choose some industry or some technology. This year we have chosen clearly AI because we believe AI is a transformation, AI is driving a transformation across society and across industry. It's a fundamental technology. We believe that AI will drive this transformation over the next 20-30 years.
In terms of jobs, you've already indicated a few days back that, reskilling has to be a priority. You've time and again clarified that it's not going to be about massive job losses, but new jobs that will come up. But the question is, has enough being done to really address the problem of reskilling, or is that a work in progress really, and that will take a lot of time?
It is a work in progress. Unfortunately, India has a complicated environment because we have 40-45% of the population still depend on agriculture, right? They have to be moved into the industrial era, the jobs that they can do, which will not be highly skilled and things like that. Second, we have to transition the people in the industrial era to the knowledge era. And third, we have to transform the people from the knowledge era to the AI era, right? So all these are happening simultaneously in India, and that's the challenge. So under AI, we are only addressing how the knowledge era people are transitioning into AI era. That means the people who are in the software industry today, how can we actually move to the knowledge era? Now, how do we transition people in the factories? How do we transition the people in the fields, agriculture fields?
To also accept it.
Right? How do we, so that's why this is very complicated for a country like India.
Where should the government draw the line as far as regulatory aspect is concerned? There's one very strong anti-view, the likes of Elon Musk, that you have rebutted really, that strong regulations are required. AI cannot sort of go out of hand. But in India, we're still early as far as regulatory is concerned. So should the government really draw a line, or should it be left to the sphere of innovation and, innovation really?
Government has a key role to play. I won't use the word strong regulation. I would use the word right regulation. We have seen in the past that if the right set of regulations are not there, we will face significant challenges down the line. For example, the financial crisis of 2008 came about because the financial services industry was not properly regulated, right? The governance, etc. So we have to make sure that the right set of regulations are there. So if you take, for example, autonomous vehicles, right? We know that autonomous vehicles are going to be introduced into the life of ordinary people over time, because the benefits are, far higher. So we need to start thinking about how the future will look like with autonomous vehicles. What are the step-by-step transitions that we need to make? How do we pilot this in a small way? So can we look at autonomous vehicles, for example, in campuses, right, which are controlled environments, gated communities, right? Now, introducing that will spur the industry to test their ideas.
AI itself, in terms of reskilling, all IT companies have agreed that reskilling is their big focus. They're deploying funds, they're ensuring a large number of employees can really, have they responded early to the science, or, have we missed it late? Is it a race against time to ensure that, the ever-changing nature of technology and IT companies sort of coping with it is really on time?
See, I'm very optimistic about the IT industry because, one, they're financially very strong. They're all profitable companies. They have large number of people, and they have customers, loyal customers, right, who support them. And lastly, this is the best environment, ecosystem that exists anywhere in the world for IT. And that's the reason why the IT ecosystem in India continues to grow.
After all that talk on AI, we bring the focus back to a very important investor in the Indian startup space. We're talking about Temasek, the Singapore sovereign fund, and remember, they've also been very active in India. Apart from their investments in the listed company space, they have positions in unicorns such as Zomato as well as Policy Bazaar. My colleague Ashwin Mohan caught up with Temasek's India joint head Rohit Sipahimalani to really find out about what they are looking for in terms of the next bets in e-commerce in the area of startups, and what criteria they will apply. Now, Sipahimalani was very particular that startups have to show some sort of profitability metric. It cannot be cash burn forever, something that we've been seeing in the last few years. Let's hear out what Temasek had to say about their existing bets as well as the ones they will be investing in future.
We like the digital economy. We see, a secular growth trend out here. And particularly, we like businesses that are digital enablers to disrupt traditional businesses or creating new business models. So that's why we like both the companies that you talked about and why we've invested in them. Why they have been successful? I mean, I guess ultimately in all these businesses, it comes down to execution. I think these guys have just executed better than the competition and done that sustainably, which has got them to where they are. Plus, of course, on the back of that successful execution, they've been able to raise capital, which itself then becomes a competitive advantage. So that becomes self-reinforcing. You execute well, you can attract more capital, that makes you stronger, and so on and so forth.
How important is a clear-cut path or road to profitability when it comes to investing in the e-commerce space? You spoke about execution, but at the end of the day, you need to break even, right? Because that's what, if that doesn't happen, that makes investors like you restless.
No, I think it's very important, a path to profitability. So I think what's important is the unit economics should be positive. Then if you're spending or burning money in the near term to acquire new customers or for hyper growth, that actually is acceptable because you know that at some point of time, when you get to a more normalized pace of growth, If your unit economics are profitable, you will move to profitability. So I think that's what we look at very closely. We say, look, what are you doing? Are you basically burning money on every transaction, or are you profitable on a transaction basis, but because of money you're spending to either invest in technology or